This is the Tom Anderson Show, broadcasting live from the KBNT studios, 7 to 9 a.m., Monday through Friday.
Okay, so now imagine a kid attending St. Matthew's Catholic Church, Brooklyn, tough kid. Then fast forward, and he's a 2021 mayoral candidate. This guy is, I think, one of the best radio show hosts, and I am one, so I can speak with authority. I haven't been in the game as long as him. In the nation, he is intelligent. He is a great debater, and his charisma and his ingenuity in word, I just love it. You're a wordsmith, Curtis. Curtis Sliwa joins us, the founder of the Guardian Angels, and I must say first, before I say anything else, that your sister, speaking of angels, Maria is an angel. She is a delight. She's a dear friend, and I'm so honored that she would help facilitate and you agreed to come on the show. How are you today?
Well, I tell you, with that build-up, I have a fractured jaw. That's better than Percocet and Oxys together.
I am one of your biggest fans, and I bet you hear that all the time, but I'm not kidding. My son, youngest boy, and I know you have kiddos, adults now, but my youngest is in 8th grade, and I was in 6th to 7th grade, not to date us all, but when I saw, my dad was a state trooper cop in Alaska, and they watched the news every night, and I saw something with these Red Berets and these guys in New York City and Subway, and may not have remembered your name, but I'm like, man, I would love to do that. And Dad said, boy, that's dangerous, but they're making a difference. I'll never forget he said that. You started back in a time when, and we'll get to the mayoral candidacy, but tough times back then. And I know your story, McDonald's manager, moonlighting, but I mean, were you ever truly fearful, or are you the guy that, you're not scared of that? You're so tough that it just doesn't bug you?
No. Everybody has to have a certain level of fear, or you're just not human. I mean, I had a healthy fear of my father, Chester, who would hit me so hard my mother would feel the vibrations. Only did that twice in my whole life, and I deserved it, because there are consequences for actions. But I think what happens is you get into a mindset in which you say, what do I got to lose? Back in 1979, this city of New York, which is now approaching a similar situation, was falling into the fiscal abyss. We were on the verge of declaring bankruptcy. They had laid off cops and taking the subways at night. They had eliminated all the police officers. So what I did was I figured, hey, I'll get my burger boys and burger girls, who are my closers at night. We'll start riding the train, the number 4 train, the Muggers Express. Hey, this is going to be great. I couldn't have been more hopelessly wrong. People thought we were the Hells Angels, Charlie's Angels, vigilantes. Then at that time, the cult movie classic, The Warriors, came out about gangs on the subway. So naturally, people made a connection there. The cops didn't want us on the trains because they felt, wait a second, you're encroaching on what is our turf. We just have people laid off. They'll never hire them back if all of a sudden the city accepts you. And I got arrested within the first 13 years, 77 times, sometimes for just breathing air. I'd say, what's the charge, Sarge? And he'd say, you inhale, but you ought not exhale. So there was a lot of harassment. The gangs were about to put us out of business. But through time, if you are a historian, if you understand, technological change takes place overnight. But cultural change and people's acceptability is very slow. And then in 13 years, Rudy Giuliani had been elected mayor in 1992, gave the city a badly needed colonic, embraced the Guardian Angels, and from there, we were able to expand into 13 countries and 130 cities.
It's huge. By the way, folks, if you want to check it out, guardianangels.org online, and you can donate, and we'll get into that, the safety patrols and junior angels and annual, everything that you do is a big deal, and I think it resonates with the community. Last night I was talking to another national talk show host, and we were talking about homelessness, and whether you're in Texas or California, whether you're here in Alaska or in New York, he was saying that, the remedy is so often, let's bring these folks to our level, and our level meaning where we eat, what we do, what we wear, where we live. And he said, it's systemic, and it's at this base level that you have to bring them into counseling, bring them in the treatment if they want to be. It's really a growing problem across the world. In New York City, one of the worst just because of your population. Do you have answers to that? We'll get into your mayoral candidacy, but I mean, do you have somewhat of a remedy beyond the guardian angels for homelessness and the problems there?
Oh, yeah. Dependency on government will put you on a one-way trip to Palookaville. There are too many officials. Once they get elected, they want to take care of you from the cradle to the grave. The guardian angels is about self-help. It's about the community stepping forward and not always wanting government to intervene. Because I don't care what party you're with. People want to get elected to office. They promise everything. And they're a dollar short and a day late once they get into office. If we would only start taking more responsibility. Now, why are there so many emotionally disturbed people in the streets? Because we've released them from psychiatric medical facilities.
Bingo.
It is our elected officials who've done that. Why are there so many homeless people in the streets? Because they're not all destitute. They're drug addicts. They have alcohol problems. You have to forcibly remove them, and you have to detox them. You got to get them back on track. This idea the civil libertarians have that, oh, no, it's their right to be out in the streets, to defecate, to urinate. They're out of their mind.
That's Occupy Wall Street. I remember that.
Right in the Constitution and the Bill of Rights to do that.
Yeah, no, you're spot on there. Mayor of New York City, 4-year term. I mean, de Blasio, de Barfio, I don't like him. I know you don't like him. And I do remember the days of Rudy Giuliani, and what a profoundly effective mayor. And I know that you're not really thrilled with him banging it up with Donald Trump. I'm looking at the list here, and I went to a couple different sources to look at the potential candidates, and everyone from Donald Trump Jr. on the Republican side. You're a candidate on the Republican side that's actually declared, so good for you doing it early. But there's all sorts of folks that may jump into that. Let's talk about that. You've got, 325,000 employees. Folks, for those of you that don't realize the enormity of that size, think of all the states but like California, I think Texas and New York, all the other states and cities, you name one, that amount of people is bigger. So under a Mayor Sliwa administration, you have a massive amount of people under you. Of course, you have to deal with 51 council members. How do you see that playing out? I love your style. I could work for you in a second, but I don't know if everybody would say that. How would you be as a mayor, do you think?
Well, let me tell you something. I'm not hiring anybody, so hey, go find a job somewhere else, pal. If anything, I'm cutting down to the marrow of the bone, because after the pandemic, we have been economically devastated. We cannot keep looking to the federal government just to print money. We don't want to become Maduro in Venezuela, where the currency is worthless. So we're going to have to carry our own weight, and that means we're going to have to learn to do more with less. That's right, more with less. Oh, my God, government doesn't want to hear that. Republicans, Democrats don't want to hear that. That's right. You're going to have to learn to do more with less. And if you're going to be mayor of the city of New York, you have to show the way. Now, of course, there are going to be other candidates on the Democratic primary, Republican primary, and I hope third-party challenges also. I will tell you this. I'm the only one of those you mentioned and others you didn't who has street credibility. 41 years in, busting my shoes in the streets. They'll be very good in the suites, getting wine-dined and pocket-lined, but I don't believe that's where this election will be won. You've seen the demonstrations in the streets on your televisions. You've seen the looting at night. Now, who do you want? Somebody who's up in an ivory tower telling you what they want to do or hopefully will do if they're mayor? What do you want? Somebody like Curtis Lee, who's already earned his stripes down in the streets? And I know the difference between the good, the bad, and the ugly. I don't want them to have to all of a sudden take remedial courses and catch up to me, because they're not ready for prime time. Not in this kind of a situation.
No, I get that. You've opened a can of, as they say, whoop ass many a time. You have martial arts training, and I'm sure in your younger day you were probably in the gym often, or you can tell us how you trained. Fast forward now, you're still in good shape, I can see from the videos, and you're clearly fine-tuned intellectually, but that doesn't mean that a gang of people you can defeat. I mean, this isn't the Hollywood. And so you got your jaw hurt, and I'm sorry to hear that, and your colleague got really hurt, massive stitches. I read the story, heard it on the news. Can you tell us what happened there this last week, Tuesday?
Oh, yeah. Well, first off, on Monday night, there was mass looting, total anarchy, and the police were impotent. Not because the men and women of the police department didn't want to do anything with the NYPD. It's the finest police department in the world. But you had a mayor who was telling them to stand down. Now, where did we see that before? Baltimore, Freddie Gray. Look at that city now. And notice, they haven't had any riots or looting this time around because they learned their lesson from 5 years ago. So Monday, the police did not stop the looting. And Tuesday, the looters came back with a vengeance. And I told the men and women of the Guardian Angels, we're making Custer's last stand. We're going into the belly of the beast. We're going to find the crown, the jewel in the crown. And for them, the looters wanted Foot Locker because this one particular Foot Locker had all of those, not only sneakers, but the limited edition Nike sneakers that go for hundreds of dollars in the street. That's currency. And they had targeted. And you could see it on social networking. They were going to bore in like moles, like beavers building a dam. They were going to blow up the dam. And there were only 6 of us because I had Guardian Angels in other parts of the city. And first they came with 35, and we beat them back. An hour later, they came with 100, and we were swinging and winging. An hour later, it was 300, and that's when I got cold-cocked with a ball-peen hammer in the jaw. My colleague next to me got hit with a claw hammer. As you had mentioned, a broken eye socket, broken nose, 48 stitches. We didn't surrender. We didn't retreat. We didn't give them an inch. We told those looters, hey, you want to come back for a 4th time? And yes, they did at 11:30 at night, 600 strong. But this time, out of nowhere, the cavalry came. It was the NYPD. They came in on bicycles. They were undercover units. They were in marked vans, marked vehicles. They were running to the location with what they call hats and bats, the helmets and the long sticks. And they started swinging and winging. And these looters were running in all different directions. Many of them were arrested. They were screaming for their mommies. Yeah, these are not tough guys. Unfortunately, New York, it's a no-bail state. That meant they were brought to the local precinct, given what we call disappearance tickets, little pink slips, and then all of a sudden they were back to come out on Wednesday, and we were ready for them, but this time they didn't want no part of the Guardian Angels.
Oh, man. Curtis Sliwa was his name, founder of the Guardian Angels. I can tell you right now, I'll work with your sister to bring you up here. We're going to go fishing, and at some point you're going to speak to some folks, if you have time, in Alaska. Have you ever been up to Alaska?
No.
Oh, man.
That's the only state I've never visited.
Well,
my children have with their mother, my youngest sons, Carter and Hunter. They took the tour last year. They started in Victoria, which I've been to, in British Columbia. They were smelling the tulips. Then they did the complete tour of Alaska.
Southeast.
They fell in love with Alaska. And I said, how do you like that? My 2 youngest sons have been to a place that all I've done is read about it in national.
Well, we're going to get you up here. That's on my bucket list to have you come up here. A couple other questions. I know you have a show to prepare for, and I've got a live show forthcoming here. This is going to be on video, folks. We're going to post how you can connect and donate to and support the Guardian Angels. Couple quick questions. One, were you ever on Sesame Street? And I really mean that because it was filmed there, and I wonder if the Guardian Angels, I don't recall if you guys ever made a visit there or connected, because I know how much you've done for kids and schools and inspired children.
No, Sesame Street, public broadcasting felt, no. These guys, they're too physical because, we're not just eyes and ears. We'll give you a therapeutic back massage and have you suck concrete until the police arrive. So we were persona non grata with public broadcasting. But we've been on Letterman. In fact, I became lens-lice at the age of 5. Many of your listeners might remember a program called Romper Room. I was a doobie, not a don't be. So that's how I became addicted to the cameras and the microphones. There's not a camera or microphone that I won't make love to in the world.
Yeah, you're such a talent, and the more I researched, I mean, I followed you, but we're a ways away, and because I'm friends with your sister, as I researched, I'm like, this guy has star power, and you're humble. It's my words. You really, I mean that sincerely. You're right up there with Michael Savage. Have you? This wasn't an intended question, but have you been asked to go national, or do you like keeping it in New York and then encourage people to listen online?
Yeah, to be honest with you, there's too much national syndication. And, after a while, even though I know most of the players, they all sound the same. I think we need more live and local. If talk radio is to survive, it's got to be an outlet for the people in the community to know what's going on in their city, their suburbs, their surrounding area. You really can't do that when you're on a national syndicated show. Now, there are a lot of great national talk show hosts that actually made their bones right here at WABC, where I broadcast. I've been broadcasting for 30 years. This is where Rush Limbaugh went national. Sean Hannity went national. Mark Levin went national. I know Michael Savage. He's a New York City boy himself, grew up in the Bronx and went to school in Queens. So there's plenty of nationally syndicated shows, but we need more local talk radio outlets to combat all the disinformation that oftentimes comes from the local TV newscasts, which, let's face it, they don't get in depth. They're not sort of crawling into the problem issues of the local community and coming up with solutions. All they do is flash a camera on it. They tell you how bad things are. Talk radio can be a way to actually bring suggestions to how to repair a community that's forlorn, that's looking for answers. And that's what I do with my show at WABC. It's not just telling you what the problem is. Most people can see that. It's telling people how to empower themselves. I don't trust politicians. Not one of them. I trust the people. Now, you tell that to the politicians. They, well, I don't trust the people. And I know they don't trust the people because they surround themselves with cops who have weapons. How ironic that so many of them are dissing and dismissing the cops, but they want the cops to protect them. I walk around by myself. I don't need people with arms. I don't need cops. I don't need guardian angels to protect me. I'm not afraid of the people. The moment I'm afraid of the people, I think it's time for me to come up there, start fishing outside of Juneau or Anchorage, and just hang up my red beret.
No, you're not hanging up. You got a lot. Okay, 3 super quick questions, and we're done. And I bless you for coming on the show with your busy schedule. First is Bernard Goetz, way back in '84. Were you surprised at that? And I know that's an obscure question out of the blue, but that was something that is in my mind. These guys continue to rob and harass people on the subway. Finally, he blows them away. They don't die. One sues them. Bernard never paid him, ultimately, even though he lost in court. What did you think of that? And then I'll give you a nexus. To then fast forward, you can answer this one combined. Candace Owens the black professional who's on TV often and on podcasts, talked about how George Floyd, she doesn't support George Floyd in Minneapolis, not the fact that he died. She thought that was sad, but that he's not a martyr. And, the cops are being punished, but not all cops are bad. Whether it's Bernard Goetz back in '84 or George Floyd now and cops, do you think we're in disrepair? Do you think that the George Floyd case is an injustice to generally cops nationally?
Well, let's separate the two. Let's go to Bernard Goetz in the early '80s, right after I started. I afterwards, after the situation of him shooting the 4 black youths in the subway, I got to know him very well. Look, Bernard Goetz is no angel. I'm no angel. Nobody really is. They come with some faults. They come with some baggage. But on that particular moment, surrounded by these 4 thugs who were intent to hurt him, harm him, rob him, he used lethal force against them. Now, I don't carry weapons. The guardian angels don't carry weapons. But I'll be damned if I'm going to tell you can't defend yourself, because I know what the ramifications of that are. And in fact, there's a Netflix special. Some of your listeners might go to it. You can see me talking about the Bernard Goetz case, because we were involved in that from beginning to end. And it really had racial implications, not because it was meant to be that way initially, but naturally everyone came to their own conclusions. White people said, oh, Bernard Goetz is a hero, and black people were told, oh, no, he's a hateful member of the Ku Klux Klan, and that's why he shot the 4 black youth. It couldn't have been more. They couldn't have been more hopelessly wrong. Now let's cycle back up to the Floyd situation. I've had guardian angels in Minneapolis. That is the most progressive, liberal city, and it's a police department that does not go over the top. Now, this particular case, absolutely. I haven't found one person to support the actions of the 4 cops. And to be honest, we didn't know the background of Floyd, nor did the cops when they pinned him to the ground, and the one cop squeezed the life out of him right out of his neck. They need to be prosecuted to the full extent of the law. But you don't all of a sudden use him as the sort of symbol for the movement, because he wasn't a symbol for Black Lives Matter. And then when you look at Chicago over the weekend, 23 killed, 83 shot, most of them black. Black Lives Matter. They exist in Chicago. They never go in the hood because the hoodlums would turn their guns on them and shoot them. The gangsters, black gangster disciples, the vice lords, they rule in South Side and West Side Chicago. So there's a lot of hypocrisy here. Floyd is being used. He's being used by what I call a lot of fake, phony, fraudulent pretenders, fugazis, we call them in the streets of New York, to push forward their agenda to strip the police of their powers. And as you can see in Minneapolis, they want to abolish the police, and then leave it in the hands of social workers and EMTs. Are they crazy?
Yeah, I went to law school in Minneapolis. My family's from there. Then we moved to Alaska thereafter. And I'm telling you right now, it's liberal. They're the ones that think of the electoral votes going for Mondale over Reagan. That's Minnesota, sadly, even though I'm a Vikings fan. Okay, last question. And first with a comment, guardianangels.org. Donate, folks. Don't contact Curtis. He's too busy, but you can donate. You can help him. You can support them. Also, you're running for mayor. And again, listen to WABC 12 to 3 p.m. Eastern time. Listen to a show. He's a delight. You can hear this. This guy's a star in his blood. Finally, how can people support you for mayor? And when are you going to have something online, or do you, where they can support you, whether it's donations or shout outs or whatever as you run?
I can't do that right now because, the moment I announce officially, they take me right off the air.
Gotcha.
Oh, there's an equal time provision. So
Gotcha.
I got to push this as far as I can up to the absolute last moment when I can declare officially. Then they pull me off the air at WABC, and then I'm in it to win it. So we got to first get through the national election, which is very contentious, as we all see in 2020.
And by the way, you like Trump over Biden.
3rd.
Don't you like Trump over Biden?
Sometime in April, May, even maybe in June, so then I can sprint to the finish line in November of 2021.
I love it. And you heard what I asked. I didn't mean to interrupt you, but you got to like Trump over Biden. Please tell me that. I know you're not a fan of Trump.
Poor Joe Biden, he might need me to actually guide him around if he happens to get elected president of the United States. I lived through this in 1968. It was Richard Nixon, who everybody thought was dead and buried and would never revive his political career. And because there was insurrection in the streets, he got elected over the Joe Biden of that era, Hubert Humphrey, although he had
Minnesota
about him. And a lot of people forget George Wallace, who was the populist, who got a lot of blue-collar working-class votes up in the north, even though he was a racist. So I see some of the same elements here. Push come to shove, I want to hear all the debates, but obviously I want someone in control of his mental and physical faculties, and that's the President of the United States, Donald Trump.
Yeah, no, well, good for you. That's nice to hear. Curtis Sliwa, Guardian Angels founder, and what a great American. I love it, my friend. Thank you so much. I've been trying to get you on my show for a year. You and Ted Nugent were my targets, and I've got you both now. My friend, thank you. Keep up the good work, and we'll be in touch. Remember, I have a political consulting agency with multiple offices. We're going to be helping you, so we'll keep in touch, my friend, okay?
I appreciate the tactical air support.
Okay, thank you. So that's Curtis Sliwa, the Guardian Angels, right here on the Tom Anderson Show.